into it because something actually remarkable happened. The Liberals, a Liberal, told the truth about something. All right, so let's throw up the slide here. So the Public Safety Minister caught on a recorded message. He was talking to a tenant of his, probably, obviously not knowing he was taped, but what he was saying was quite shocking.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
I think most legal firearms owners knew what the plan was and why the Liberals were moving forward with their confiscation program, but to actually have it said out loud and debunk everything the Liberals have said about the reasons why they need to go after legal firearms owners is truly amazing. I think it shows that our analysis of the situation was correct.
Been correct for 4+ years, yeah. Right? The ongoing narrative that this was not about community safety. It was all about politics. Case in point, he confirms in the leaked audio tape that it was about preserving votes in the province of Quebec. Yeah. That he's personally opposed to the whole concept, was willing to actually pay the difference of whatever the loss may be for that friend who was a licensed firearm owner. And then to compound that, to even suggest, oh, by the way, if you happen to get arrested, I'll bail you out.
But he was kind of in denial about him being arrested in the first, like, it won't happen, don't worry about it.
Competence is just through the roof.
Yeah. Like Mr. Arpal, the public safety minister, what is an Arpal? We knew that they had candidates running for them. We knew the Liberals were running candidates in Quebec that were against even I think, firearms for hunting, right? Even the most basic firearms for sustenance. I think they were against that. We knew they were running those candidates. So they're embedded within the party. And so for the public safety minister, as you said, to come out and say, I don't agree with this program, but it also goes to his credibility, right? Not knowing what an RPAL is, not knowing the licensing system, to then go and say, well, you know, I'm doing it anyway. So what, you just want to preserve your spot in cabinet?
You know, and if they had any degree of legitimacy, and I don't give them any degree of legitimacy on any of their policies, but for them to say that we actually care about community safety and gun violence, and that's why we're forging ahead, notwithstanding my comments with this gun buyback program, if they really cared, they wouldn't have produced Bill C-5. Right. Yeah. Right? Eliminating mandatory minimum penalties for serious firearm offenses just goes to show that this was all about politics all along, never about community safety. And we've been talking about that. Licensed Firearms have been talking about that. Firearm advocacy groups have been talking about that. So we finally got a minister who breached all kinds of cabinet confidences. Let's imagine, you know, the machinations going on behind the scenes because of his loose lips. But ultimately the truth comes out. And it embarrassed the minister, but so be it. It proves we were right all along. And how many times, Jamie, have our party been right all along on a myriad of issues, right?
Too many to count. And so when we bring this up about this firearms confiscation program, which is a complete disaster, we can now, the Liberals used to counter with, oh, it's political, you know, posturing, blah, blah, blah. Now we can say, no, we are actually, aside from repeating what our constituents are telling us, we can actually use the words of the minister himself.
And we will with every opportunity that we can.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Keep repeating those words over and over and over again.
So you brought up C5, which reduced sentences for pretty serious offenses. We also have C75. Let's throw up a couple slides here, where the revolving justice system door continues to swing, and we have comment after comment about bail reform issue. Yeah. This one in Welland is absolutely incredible. A massive turnout of public support for the family, the victim, but also the fact that the accused, the suspect here, it just continues to go on a rampage. You have another one. You know, we could fill the whole show with this slide deck, which is a shame because that means there's actually more victims out there than are getting the proper attention.
Yeah. Let's face it, Canadians are absolutely terrified, but more importantly, they are fed up with the lack of urgency that the Carney Liberal government is exercising on public safety. You know, and I've said this so many times, I've lost track. The number one responsibility of any federal government is to keep us safe. And how many more pleas do we need to hear from all the important stakeholders across this country to get them to do their job? Now, Sean Fraser promises a crime bill. It's going to address community safety. It's going to address all of these violent repeat offenders terrorizing our communities. How much more do we have to wait?
Yeah.
What, you know, the nice thing about politicians, Jamie, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I appreciate why their priorities, you know, once after the election was about our economic relationship moving forward with the U.S., but they could have introduced all kinds of other bills in that time frame. And to have the Justice Minister say, well, just trust us. You know, you just trust us. We're going to be able to deal with this head on once and for all. Same type of language, same type of promises that our former Justice Minister, Arif Virani, said he was going to deliver with Bill C-48, which was an absolute disaster. And for your viewers, C-48, according to the government, was to make it exceedingly difficult for individuals charged with a number of other serious offenses from getting bail. It created a reverse onus provision that when they ran the bail hearing, they had the onus to establish why they should be released. Well, it didn't move the needle at all. And I was sounding the alarm, notwithstanding we all voted in favor of it as a caucus, I was sounding the alarm that it's not going far enough. And what I mean by that is until such time as this government basically removes and moves away from this whole concept of principle of restraint under section 493.1 of the Criminal Code, that is the problem. And it's been the problem since C-75 was introduced in 2019, which mandates that every judge that hears a bail application every day across this country shall release the accused at the earliest opportunity on the least restrictive conditions, regardless of the offense they were charged with, regardless of the carnage and circumstances affecting the community or the victim, regardless of the person's criminal record, which may include a history of violating bail orders or a history of committing the same offense over and over again, and even regardless if they're on all kinds of previous releases. According to the Liberal government, you qualify for a release. And that's what people are absolutely fed up with. Case in point, all the clips that you saw. You can't pick up the newspaper, you can't read it online, you can't watch news or listen to the radio with another example of someone who made the promise to a judge that they would abide by conditions only to be released. They'll say whatever it takes to get released, get out on the street, and continue on their criminal path.
Now, the Liberals have said, as you mentioned a few moments ago, that they're going to try to fix the legislation that they broke the system with in the first place. Having said that, who are or have been some of Mark Carney's closest advisors? We have Marco Mendicino, who is the public safety minister through this disaster, as well as David Lemeni, who was the justice minister at the time, which combined brought in the situation that we're having now with C-75 and C-5. So you're saying we will fix the problem we created with the people who created the system in the background managing the puppet show here.
Isn't that the definition of insanity? Right?
I don't get it.
You know, we created the mess, but trust us to correct the mess that we created.
We're the heroes now. We're the heroes.
We're Captain Canada.
Yeah, we're coming in.
We're coming in. We're coming in on our white horses, and we're going to save this country.
They've got this.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's ludicrous.
Now, you have a petition. Do you still have it up on your website?
Absolutely,
right,
I have my petition. My petition, well, I said to myself, you know, as an opposition member, as a shadow critic for justice, what can I do? What kind of project can I take on over the summer? And I said to myself, well, For the last 4 years, this government has heard from all the important stakeholders, premiers of every province, regardless of political affiliation. They've heard from police chiefs, they've heard from presidents of police associations, they've heard from victim groups, they've heard from mayors, from small communities, mid-sized, small towns, small cities, large cities, metropolis cities, all saying the same thing. Deliver us with a bail bill that promotes community safety first and foremost, not this ludicrous catch and release, repeat, rinse type of system that we have that rewards bad behavior. For 4 years, Jamie, they've been saying the same thing, largely ignored by not only Justin Trudeau and his government, now Mark Carney and the same government. So I said, what can I do? What can I do to raise awareness? So I said, how about if I created a petition to hear from everyday Canadians from all walks of life, from every corner of this country, demanding the immediate repeal of the catch and release, principle of restraint, and replacing it with the principle of community safety. So I created that petition. My hope was to go viral. My goal, which was a stretch goal, using the words of former Premier Kathleen Wynne, a stretch goal to have 1 million Canadians from coast to coast to sign my petition so I can go back to the House and say, Prime Minister, Minister Fraser, for 4+ years, you've ignored the calls from all those stakeholders. How now are you going to ignore the calls of 1 million+ Canadians who are demanding that you do your job and keep us safe?
We even went one step further. Our pal and colleague, Arpan Canna from Oxford, the riding in Ontario, in southwestern Ontario, came up with a private member's bill.
Indeed, he did.
Jail, not bail, to help piggyback on your petition.
Absolutely.
Calling for that implement. So we are actually piecing it all together for the government.
We are.
We're doing the homework for them.
And we are inviting them,
Yeah.
as our leader has often done on numerous policy issues, steal our ideas. We want a united country. We want a safe country. In my view, when it comes to community safety, it's not a partisan issue. Never should be, never will be. Every Canadian wants to live in a safe community. So we invited the Liberal government to take our ideas, poach it, do what you want to do, so long as the end goal is to stop prioritizing the needs of criminals over that of community safety.
And up until Justin Trudeau, I think every political party did agree, maybe the NDP was questionable, but did agree that crime is bad. Unsafe communities are bad. Citizens being robbed, assaulted, murdered was bad.
Yep.
And Justin Trudeau flipped that on his head, flipped it all on its head. And it's some bizarro world where people are supposed to be okay to continue to get their house broken into. They're supposed to be okay with getting robbed in the street or having an addiction and mental health crisis everywhere you look, in every, as you said, every size of community. It is, you can't go anywhere without seeing it.
Yeah.
And this is the result of Liberal governments the last 10 years.
And I would even suggest it goes beyond 10 years. I actually did a lot of research over the summer about the origin of why the Liberal Party traditionally has been on the side of the accused versus community safety and victims. I found out in the early 70s, under Pierre Elliott Trudeau's leadership, his then Justice Minister proudly stated in the House of Commons that the whole goal of rehabilitating criminals would be priority number one, even if it compromised, the exact words, if it compromised community safety. That goes back over 50 years, Jamie.
So his son, Justin, heard it around the dinner table, probably.
He must have.
So the ball was set in motion, and it kind of finished
continued.
off. I would say under the Chrétien and Martin, I think some people would argue they went a bit light, but they were definitely not in the same place as Trudeau Sr. and Trudeau Jr.
I would agree.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
All right, so we're almost out of time here, but so we are proposing for those And last week we had Michael Guglielmin from York Region, a newly elected member of Parliament, and York Region in Ontario, a region above Toronto, is going through a massive crime wave. It is insane when you look at the map. Significant problem with home invasions, including the execution of one individual, one homeowner in front of his children, which is absolutely horrific. So we're going to come up with, well, we have presented a couple ideas. Let's cut one. Let's hear our leader talk about it to protect those homeowners, in a time of extreme stress. Play cut one.
The law needs to be clear that if someone comes into your house uninvited to steal your property or harm your family, you need to be able to do whatever is necessary to stop them. And my message to the criminal thugs who are invading the homes of Canadians in unprecedented numbers because of Liberal laws is that you should be in serious danger if you go into someone's house illegally and try to harm them. If you don't want to be harmed, then don't invade someone's house and don't threaten their security. The law needs to be very clear that people have the right to defend their homes and their families against lawbreakers.
The audio was a bit off, but you get the point.
Yeah.
How does it stand now? What is the law now? If someone was breaking into my home, what can I do to protect myself and my family?
So the laws of self-defense have been on our books for decades. Section 34 and 35 set out the principles and the test that is applied when anyone is charged with going beyond the element of self-defense. So in essence, what it says is the courts would assess the reasonableness of the actions taken to defend your person or to defend your property based on a 9-factor test. And the ludicrousy of that particular test is it enables a judge, sometimes months if not years removed from the incident, to therefore second guess the split-second actions taken by a homeowner or someone defending their person as to whether the actions taken in a split second were reasonable in all the circumstances.
Pretty vague
So
term here.
it's vague,
Reasonable.
it's very, very subjective.
Yeah.
It depends really who your judge is.
True.
Can they put themselves in the mind of that person who had to make that split-second decision? Is the judge thinking maybe you should have ran? Maybe you should have used a lesser severe weapon to defend yourself? On and on and on. It's always second guessing the actions. It's very problematic for people who are trying to assert that as a defense.
You got adrenaline running, you got emotion, you're
No
worried about
question.
kids, family.
No question.
Like,
So our party, our leader in particular, recognized this problem in light of what you just described. The ever-increasing rise of extreme violent home invasions, which tragically quite often lead to death. I'm thinking about the man in our colleague Michael Guglielmin's riding who is shot dead in the presence of his children. Heartbreaking. So stand on guard principle is an extension of the old castle law doctrine. And the castle law doctrine originated in the United Kingdom, actually goes back to the 1400s, Jamie, imported into Canadian jurisprudence. But what the leader wants to do is he wants to give further protection to homeowners and not to be examined and second-guessed by judges after the fact, looking at a 9-part test. What the leader has said in the essence of Stand on Guard is that there is going to be a presumption of reasonableness if you feared bodily harm, if not imminent death, by the presence of someone who has invaded your castle, your home, armed with whatever, that if you had that fear that somehow you could be either severely injured or died, that the actions you take, which could include lethal force, is deemed to be reasonable. Now, that's a rebuttable presumption, And it would be up to the police, it would be up to the Crowns to decide whether they have legal grounds and evidence to rebut that principle, but at least it telegraphs to the homeowner that we've got protections. It also telegraphs to these individuals who want to engage in this criminal activity that you could be literally taking your own life by breaking in violently into someone's home, not understanding that that could lead to lethal force. So in a way, it provides a bit of a deterrence, I would add. It also provides, in my view, some clarity for law enforcement, because they often really grapple whether or not they feel that the actions taken by the homeowner in the circumstances were appropriate, and therefore they would not charge. So we are trying to give better direction to law enforcement, and certainly better direction to prosecutors should the issue arise in the future.
All right, we have gone way over time, but I appreciate you sticking around there, Brockinator. As you know, the guests get the last word, so the floor is yours.
Again, for any Liberal members of the government watching your podcast, and I encourage them to watch our podcast, please reflect on the discussion that we had, steal our ideas, make it a priority, and discharge your number one responsibility: keep us safe.
Brock.
What do you think there, folks? Larry Brock nailed it. What is going on with Gary Anandasangaree? It's time for this Tiger to go. What a joke. It keeps getting worse in the House of Commons. Aaron Canadian Looney, like, share, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video. These politics are wild. Thanks for watching, gang. We'll catch you in the next one.